Good morning, good morning. It's a grey morning, low overhead cloud, good for photography. And I'm on my way to work. In fact, I'm about halfway there. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, first of all, my video on the corruption of dentistry has, I wouldn't say it's gone viral, but for me, it's had a large number of views. So 1,700. Now, for me, like 50 to 70 is about right. So it's had a 34x times the normal viewership, which is odd. The next one had 500, which I suppose is one in three of those. 1,700 just being curious about what I was going to say next. But I've reverted to being like a fairly boring video about dentistry in general practice, to sort of, what they don't teach you at dental school. So look at the size of that scaffold. That's a scaffold and a half, isn't it? Yeah, so then I've now reverted to my normal numbers. So why all of a sudden? I mean, I don't know when these things are going to blow up. I mean, I know you could say, well, sort of courting controversy a bit by sort of blowing the lid on the inside of the dental profession and exposing a few ways in which the system is manipulated by those in it. So, I mean, I would watch that. If it was in another, I watched videos about people exposing police who don't know the law and all sorts of, if it's an inside track on something, it's worth watching, isn't it? The problem is you very rarely get these inside tracks. The people who are, who could tell you, will tell you in private, but they won't tell you in public. The stuff I've had in surgery that people have said to me, oh, yeah, you'll never guess what's going on at the local hospital. They're doing XXX and it's costing them £4,000 a patient. And you're like, really? Well, who? Only the hospital administrators know that. There's a variety of internal reports at my local hospital that have been written to analyse post hoc various disasters, including deaths, which are not made public. Although I don't know whether I could perhaps write and ask under the Freedom of Information Act if they're prepared to. They'll probably have some. They'll claim some public interest exemption, I should imagine. Talking of which, I've still got my inquiry to the PRS PPL outstanding. My Freedom of Information request asking them how much money they've made by collecting rights money from dentists who don't have to pay it, and heard nothing. So if how can I put it, if their past record is any indication of their future performance, then they're just going to shred that letter and just pretend they never received it. Don't acknowledge it. I haven't had an acknowledgement. Don't acknowledge it. Don't reply to it, and just hope that I either forget about it or give up. Talking about forgetting about it or giving up, we've just booked a holiday, and the people we booked it through a company called Hayes Travel. Every time we ring up to ask them if they can make a change, it's another 300 quid. Started off at 10,000. This is for 11 people. Started off at 10,000. It's now 10,900. They keep saying, oh, no, well, you've lost the discount on this. You've lost the discount on that because you didn't book straight away. It's classic fear of missing out tactics. I don't like it. I don't like Hayes Travel. I'm sorry we ever booked anything through them. And I've told them I'm within the 14 days to ask for my money back, because anything that's sold online or over the phone, you have 14 days to. And they're like, oh, well, no, you can't get your money back because it's it's down to first choice. First choice conditions say that you can't get your money back. And I said, I don't care. That's not my contract. Is with you, not with first choice. And then their next thing was, well, no, you can't get your money back because you've paid. And once you pay, you then can't get your money back. Well, I mean, it's not much point getting your money back before you've paid, is it? I mean, that just doesn't make sense. They're told to lie. They're told to lie. And they're told not to respond. If you can actually quote the exact regulations which state that you're entitled to your money back, and they will just not say anything at all. They'll just go quiet on the other end. To the point where, oh, don't tell me that this road is open. I doubt very much whether it is. Where they, you think to yourself, well, don't they know that this is the case? I mean, they're selling online. They must know about this 14-day cooling off period. And, of course it's possible that the minions, the actual agents themselves, so I think for the most part work from home on the phone, probably don't know the niceties. She said she's going to have to refer it up because I've said I want you to come back with your best offer that's a bit more like the original offer, or we're just going to cancel. I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of travel agents in the country, or there's a shortage of hotels in the world. We will find another holiday. That's not a problem. But their attitude is that, it's like sunk costs. They figure that once they've got the deposit off you straight away, that you're then going to think, well, I'm committed to going with these guys because otherwise I'm going to have to write off a £600 deposit. Now, if you know that you don't have to write off your £600 deposit, it sort of changes the power balance a bit. It puts you on equal footing with them. When they start going on about how they do this dynamic pricing, I tell them that I do dynamic buying. And if I think something's reasonable, I'll buy it. And if I think I'm being ripped off, I don't. That's the dynamics of my situation. They've got dynamics, I've got dynamics. So, she said she's going to have to refer it up to someone, which is basically, this is this is the problem. Not only with this country, I should imagine with a lot of other countries as well. But it never used to be the problem with this country. You've got people at the, doing the menial work, the interface with the public, almost like triage, selling the easy holidays easily. But then the first time there's a problem, they have to refer it up the chain to someone who would have in the past been doing the actual selling and being able to make the decisions and stuff like that. And I had a similar opportunity, a similar problem with the passport office. And the passport office, a friend of mine is making an application for a passport for his son. He resides in the UK and his son was born abroad. And he's sent the usual stuff off. It's not a usual form, it's a different form. And so he sent the normal application in and he didn't quite understand that it wasn't him that was applying, it was his son that was applying. So when he put down the address, he put down his address and not his son's address. And so what they did was they sent it back and said they would credit his application fee against the new application, which is more expensive because it's a foreign country, so more investigation is required. And then they proceeded, I mean, bearing in mind that we are now in February and this application started in last April, they then asked him for absolutely everything, including his birth certificate, his marriage certificate to his wife, the son's birth certificate, her birth certificate, her passport details, his passport details. That was just the normal stuff. Then they started going on about they wanted copies of any correspondence between him and his wife, copies of any financial assistance he sent his wife, copies of the scan, the antenatal scans showing the ultrasonic baby in the womb, pictures of his son when he was born in the hospital, and then So he sent all that off. And then they wrote back and said that he's going to go for a face-to-face interview over Zoom which was likely to be the final stage. And then it was going to go to the committee that decides whether or not to go for it. And then, so he did the face-to-face interview, and I in particular thought that was going to be the end of it. The reason why I'm assisting is because he hasn't got a smartphone. So he can't send and receive emails, and he can't send and receive WhatsApps, and he certainly couldn't set him up on Microsoft Teams with a video camera or anything. So I've assisted him with all of this. All he can do is get text, and they don't do much by text. And they can't, they will do stuff by phone, but they ask you about 8 questions. They ask you, there's a ton of stuff they ask you, and it's so much so that I've got it written down as a list. And they ask you who the applicant was, who the passport is for, what type of passport is it, what's the applicant's date of birth, what's the father's date of birth, what's the father's full name, what's the applicant's full name, etc., etc. So he had this, and he gets confused. I mean, he will, and basically, if you make one mistake, if you say, supposing his date of birth was 8/9/2019, and you say 8/9/1919, they say, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore, and they just hang up on you. Just hang up. So this has been very frustrating, but funnily enough, it's to someone like me, this is like a challenge. I like a challenge. You probably guessed this. This is why I've been torturing the PRS over a decade or more. I will not let bureaucracy get the better of me. I've just got this bloody minded streak that allows me to just say, right, okay, if you want to play it that way, then we'll play it that way, And I've done it many times. I've done it when I was in charge of the GDPA, and a dentist had changed his name. And he's changed his name to something ridiculous, like Laurel and Hardy, the Great McGonagall, blah, blah, blah. And the General Dental Council said that they wanted him to come for an interview in Wimpole Street just before they would do this. And I had to write to the GDC and say, look, is it customary for a dentist? And he had done it legally by deed poll. I mean, it was all in order. Do you know what I mean? God knows why he did it. I didn't ask him why. My job was just to try and get the General Dental Council to see that a name change is a name change, and it's not up to them to pass judgment on what someone's done and why. It's their job as a registrar just to register the bloody name. So I wrote to them and I said, look, he's got our support in asking the question of whether or not, and he didn't live anywhere near London. I mean, it was not like he was in Enfield or something. He was up in the north of the country. So they then wrote back and said, yes, well, after further consideration, we've decided that we don't need to interview him, and we'll register it, which was fine. And it's the same when I registered the name of my dental surgery, Dental Care Professionals Limited. Anything with the word dental or dentistry in it has to be sent to the General Dental Council for consideration. And the idea is to stop non-dental companies registering as dental companies and putting the word dental in the title. It's a throwback from the days when, there was when the corporate dentistry was banned. It's been deregulated now, so any number of limited companies can go into dentistry. But the point is, they were protectionist about the word dental. And so my company, Dental Care Professionals Limited, was referred to the GDC for approval of the use dental. And they turned it down. They said, no, we're not approving it because... And I'm sure the reason why they didn't approve it was because they thought it was their duty to turn anything down. Their whole point was, in the same way as, if you're, arrested for something, then your arrest is notified to the General Dental Council, and for the General Dental Council to take further action if necessary as a result of being notified of the arrest. And they felt that being notified of the use of the words dental or dentistry in a limited company title was for the purposes of them to informed the applicant that they were in charge of those words and they couldn't be used. So, and they argue that it was on the grounds of, to avoid misrepresentation. Well, the point about misrepresentation was, might be fair in, if I was selling washing up liquid and I called myself the Whiter Teeth Dental Washing Up Liquid Company or something, but I'm a dental practice. Do you know what I mean? I'm a dentist. I'm running a dental practice with registered. I'm a registered dentist and I've got registered staff. There should have been no problem over the use of the word dental with my limited company. But, and again, running dental practice as a limited company was not a recent thing, but I mean, it was a fairly new thing for the General Dental Council. Most dentists only recently converted to limited companies. So anyway, I then thought, I had a look through all the names that they had registered, the dental companies, or, and you could do this on Companies House. Just look for companies that have registered as dental practices or for dentistry business. And there are all sorts of stupid names. I mean, there was a company that called themselves, if I remember correctly, the Dental Fairies. And yeah, up yours. So I wrote back and I said, look, how can you turn me down with the word dental when you've allowed the word fairies? Are these people real fairies? Have you checked? So once again, I get a letter saying, after further consideration, we've decided that your use of the word dental is permissible, etc., and not really commenting on whether or not the fairies were fairies, etc. And so you just must not, these people, they've got, I was with the passport office, right? So the passport office have done this oral examination of the applicant or the applicant's father, and decided that we thought that was it, that it was just because he was going to answer all the. I mean, really, we thought it was just to determine that he existed, and so that he, and he was genuine. He's a genuine applicant, and he would answer all the questions and give the same answers that they'd got in their paperwork, and then we our jaws hit the floor when they wrote back and said, no, we're not minded to approve this because we don't believe that there's sufficient case has been made and that you need a DNA test. We're going to recommend that you have a DNA test. Well, what they did was they said that you've got our DNA supplier is blah, 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 and you've got, if you have a DNA test with our supplier within 60 days, then you've got 60 days. Otherwise, we'll consider the application on the grounds that we already have, which in my opinion were already more than plentiful. And make a decision based on the evidence we've got. And they've already said that they didn't think the evidence they had was enough. So it was pretty much either DNA test or we are going to obviously turn you down. So, but remember the 60 days though, all right? Because, so we then wrote to them and said, look, because it was cheaper to get a DNA test abroad where the boy lives. And because his father was going to go out there, he said, can you just check if they'll accept a DNA test from the country of birth? And which is, it's a bit, I mean, the DNA test in the country of birth is only sent to the UK anyway. The labs are in the UK. So there's no problem with that. And so they said, no, you can have, we'll accept a DNA test. It doesn't have to be ours as long as it's a kosher DNA test. So he had the DNA test abroad and it was sent to them, I think, on the 2nd of February. And where are we now? The 10th or something, aren't we? I forget. And I was annoyed because they didn't say you can have a DNA test done everywhere. They said that, and our DNA testing supplier is blah, blah, blah. So really what they're doing is they're steering everybody towards their preferred supplier, when in fact they will accept a DNA test from any supplier. So having left aside my annoyance that he'd been turned down after the Microsoft Teams call and then told that he needed to have a DNA test. Now, these DNA tests are not cheap, right? They are £300 each if you get them done through their supplier, and just over £200 each if you get them done abroad, but using a UK lab. And they said they wanted the mother's DNA, the child's DNA, and the father's DNA. Now they don't need the mother's DNA. The question of whether or not the mother is the mother of the child is not at issue. It's the question of whether the father is the father of the child. And so really all they need is the paternal DNA and the child's DNA. And that's what he had done. He had the father, he proved, and it came back positive, that there was no doubt at all that he's the father, etc., etc. So that was then sent off, and it was well within the 60 days that they'd said. And then these are the immigrant buses going past. This is today's delivery of immigrants, just in case you're interested. So anyway, we sent off the DNA, and then, blow me, we have another email yesterday saying your application is timed out, and because you didn't send it to us within the time limit allowed, and therefore, if you want to apply, you'll need to apply again, reapply, new application, new fee, new evidence of UK residence, 3 months, no more than 3 months old, council bill, electric bill, etc., etc., etc. I mean, just the most outrageous incompetence from the passport office, who I never ever thought was as bad as it is, and it is bad. It is bad, and it is, everyone I've explained this to said there's no difference at all between this passport office and a passport office that has been told to put as many obstacles in people's way as possible so as not to issue any passports. They could not be more obstructive if they tried. And I don't think, if he'd father a child in the UK, I don't think they would have been this obstructive. I think they are just being obstructive because this child was born abroad in Africa. And they are, the telling factor is that they want the mother's DNA, because I don't understand why they wanted it, why they asked for that. And I know, okay, you might say, well, okay, there's an edge case where the child might have been smuggled abroad, etc., etc. Might be a victim of, I don't know, modern child smuggling, modern slavery, whatever you want to call it. But the point is, I think that they are, if this had been a white mother or a British mother, I think they would have approved it in May or June last year. But I think, personally, because this is a Gambian mother, they are they are reluctant. How can I put it? They are less than willing to issue this passport. And I think what they've done is they've tried to put a variety of obstacles in the applicant's way, both circumstantial and subjective, such as wanting to see the antenatal ultrasounds and pictures of the baby around the birth, etc., and the interview and the DNA test. Whereas as I say, if it had been a baby born to a UK mother, they would not have asked for any of this. This is not a level playing field, you know. This is a case of institutional, I hesitate to call it institutional racism, because obviously it could be a black mother who's a UK citizen, couldn't it? So I don't think they're doing it because necessarily of the colour of her skin, but I think they're doing it because it's a Gambian woman, you know, on which by virtue of being a Gambian woman, she is far more likely to be black than the average UK woman. So, so you know, no point passport office. I have now had to explain it all to a minion. A minion. When you ring up and you say, "Look, I have authority to speak to you on this person's behalf," they're like, "Well, I don't have a record of that on my computer." And I always say to them, "No, that is true. Your line manager, you will need to talk to your line manager, who is the only person who will have a record that I am allowed to talk to you. So can we first of all, can we get that out of the way?" So then they disappear for a couple of minutes and then they come back and say, "Okay, yes, how can I help?" Well, actually, they come back and then ask you like the 12 questions where if you get a dot wrong, they hang up on you. And then because I've got them all listed down and I tend to get them all right, they're all like, "How can I help?" And I said, "We've sent you the DNA evidence and we believe we're in time." And they said, "Well, have you got the tracking number?" And I said, "I haven't got the tracking number because the tracking is not the issue. I've got an email from you acknowledging that you've got the DNA evidence, but telling me that it was submitted too late, out of time. The issue we want to argue is whether or not the DNA evidence which you acknowledge that you've received was submitted out of time." And they're all like, you know, "Oh, you can hear a lot more clack, clack, clacking at their end," but you have to make sure that they understand, you know, because they get probably, I don't know, 90% of their calls are from people ringing up saying, "I sent you something, have you received it? I sent you something, have you received it? Have you got it?" And so their first instinct is to say, "Well, did you send it by recorded delivery? What's the tracking number, etc., etc." And I'm like, "No, I didn't, you know, we didn't send it. We sent it first class, but not tracked. And you've acknowledged in your email that you've received it. So that's really not my issue. So I need you to focus. I need you to think. I need you to think, right? The reason why I'm ringing is because I've got an email from you saying that you've received the DNA evidence, but it was out of time. And we want to challenge the you saying that it was out of time. Well, I don't have that on my system." "Okay, well, your system is slow. I have it on my system because I've just received it as an email. It was received at 10:14. It is now 11:30. I don't know why you don't have that on your system." But then they ask you loads of things about what email address was it from, what did it say, etc., etc., etc. So the whole thing is a nightmare. But you know what they say: whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, you know, we are now down. I mean, it would be gutting. It would be gutting to start the whole thing again from the beginning, but I think probably it would only be as simple as paying the application, sending off the evidence of identity, and then saying, "Oh, we want all the evidence from this previous application to be linked to the latest application." But I'm rather hoping that they're going to come back and say, "Yes, there's a computer error and it was made within time, and therefore it's going forward for final consideration." Then if they turn it down, then I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to appeal to the Supreme Court or write to the MP or something. And this poor child in Africa who's, you know, where we are busting a gut, will never know how much effort went into getting his passport. A passport he's entitled to. It's not like a privilege or anything. It's something, as a child with a British father is entitled to pass on his British nationality to his children. And so there's, it's not. This is an entitlement, but he's going to grow up with his passport, and hopefully, he'll use it and it'll serve him well. But I don't think he'll ever understand how close he got, or maybe getting to actually not even getting it at all. Because it's so easy. At any time in the last 11 months, anyone could have just said, "Look, forget it. I'm going to give up." I'm going to give up with this. Anyway, well, I'll let you know how the holiday goes. I'll let you know how the my passport application goes, and I haven't even spoken to you about the thing that I was going to talk to you about, so I might do that tomorrow. All right. Bye. Have a good day. Bye.